Hi, I'm Phileas Steyn and I'm the safari expert, and this week on Out and About we are discussing some quite big changes happening here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the northern Sabi Sands. And here to answer some questions that I know many of you have is Djuma's General Mentor, Michel Girardin, and also the Safaris and Habitat Manager, Rexon. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, Phileas.
Guys, I think one of the most important questions, or let's say the most important question, is what's actually changing at Djuma? Mish, maybe you can start us off.
I think to lead off, Villiers, and that is that around the world over the last 15 months, COVID-19 has affected the world from Algeria to Zanzibar. Everybody has been affected. And it's one of the thoughts, or one of the factors that I think one has taken into consideration is that there's a need for all of us at different levels to recalibrate, to rethink about things. And I'm not going to go into great detail about the world and politics, etc. But from Djuma's point of view, Yuri and Pippa Moolman, the owners here, and myself have been looking at a number of things. At the Djuma very successful model, predominantly South African guest-based, unique self-catering, at a great value for money. And we looked at it and we said, look, let's look at, from the point of view, what is the impact on our reserve and how are we managing the impact? And we came up with a model looking forward that it might be quite radical or out the box, where we decided to be the very first lodge or game lodge in South Africa to operate on a seasonal basis.
Does that actually mean the lodge is going to close for a certain time of the year?
Correct. We're going to operate for 6 months only, from 1st of April till 30th of September. That's based on also looking at various factors. That's when most of our clientele come, which is predominantly South African based, number one. Number two, obviously there's financial modeling that we looked at, and we decided we're going to be the first in South Africa to go on a seasonal basis. Okay. As we know, Botswana, Tanzania, Kenya, Zambia, they're all...
It's very common in those areas.
And we decided to be the first, which we're very excited about.
And am I right in saying that one of the camps is actually closing down as well?
Yeah. In February 2020, we opened Tumbeta, which means to hide away, a very small 6-bedded camp. And we decided to close that. And then our 2 other lodges, Vuyatela and Galago camp, which historically accommodated 10 people each. We're going to further reduce the number of beds at Vuyatela to 8 and Galago from 10 to 6.
Okay, so Tumbeta House will close down completely.
Correct.
And both other camps are going to house just slightly less guests.
Correct.
Will those still be self-catering though?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I think, Villiers, look, we've developed, Djuma has got a very loyal supporter base for the last 3 decades. And we value those people very, very much. You yourself have brought various groups through, and we wanted to also ensure that we're able to continue offering the same model, self-catered. When we took soft self-catering because people bring their own food and beverage, but we've got very well qualified chefs who prepare the meals. That won't change.
Absolutely. So the let's say this winning Djuma model that's very different from most of the other lodges in the Sabi Sand, it essentially remains the same, it's just going to be slightly less people per camp.
Yes, in a sense it would become more exclusive in a way.
Absolutely.
But still at a great value for money price range. The reason why we looked at this seasonality and why we chose those months also has very sound environmental reasons.
Do you mean from a vehicle impact? In other words, the fact that there are now for 6 months of the year less vehicles on the property?
Yeah, I would think so. And maybe I'll ask Rex just now just to jump in here, Rex. But yes, we did look at it. And we looked at saying, okay, again, out the box, we're the first in the Sabi Sand, in the Greater Kruger, in South Africa, I believe, to actually reduce our bed levels. Yeah, because we looked at it and we said, we want to reduce the vehicle impact. Not that it is very high at the moment, but we said, look, to use an agricultural analogy, farmers very often will plough a certain section of fields this year and then the next year they won't replow the exact, because they let it go fallow in terms of the nitrogen regeneration, etc., in soils, and they plow somewhere else. We're using that sort of analogy as well. Let the bush also recover
because there's obviously lots of off-roading happening for 6 months of the year. It's going to be that much less off-roading in this, portion of the Sabi Sands.
That's true. I mean, if we look at how actually the impact itself in the reserve, but if you look at, we have studied a lot about what impact is here. If we look at all the number of vehicles, of course, that are here, if we do for business, yes, of course. I mean, people are very worried that, Vuyatela is not closing, but we are more concerned about the land itself.
The land. It's not only about numbers.
It's not all about money. It's about conservation.
And Rex, I have an interesting question for you. You obviously, I've been on so many game drives with Rex, and I've lost count. And he, very few people know Djuma in this area, and especially the leopards, better than Rex. And what do you think is going to happen when there are so few vehicles in this specific area? Do you think animals will actually come to this area because it's quieter? I wonder whether that will... this is really just something that I've been wondering about, but I wonder whether these leopards and these animals that get followed every single day might actually gravitate to this area in that quiet period. I wonder.
Of course, we'll have more animal in this particular area. If we look at over 3-4 years when we do the research or the impact of a vehicle, for instance, I'll take example of the lions or leopard. We are getting less leopard cubs that raise up to adulthood just because of vehicle impact.
Yeah.
So if it stop, I will take an example of one young leopard that Tande has now. It happens during COVID.
Maribs.
Yeah. And Maribs are able to survive.
Because during COVID, obviously, the impact in this area is very, very low.
Very less.
Interesting.
Look at now Talamba. Had a new two cubs. Because of all vehicles that are in, all the cubs are all gone.
I find it amazing that Djuma is actually considering, these kind of things. Something just a little bit more than just lodges, numbers, drives. And I think that, it gives me a lot of hope. And who knows, maybe there are other lodges in the future that might actually not necessarily adopt the model, but start thinking a little bit about the impact that you have on, that piece of land. And there are literally hundreds of private landowners in this stretch of land next to the Kruger National Park. And every single decision that those landowners make influence the animals on those properties.
Yeah, look, I think, to lead on from what Rex said about, during COVID, many people asked, we even had CNN contact us and RTL from Europe. They posed one question: are you seeing more animals during lockdown? And in fact, I'm not going to counter what Rex said. They continued doing what they do, which I think, even with the existing model, the way in which we manage the sightings, the way in which we manage access, how many vehicles at sighting, etc., is admirable.
Absolutely.
I don't think that you will necessarily see a whole lot of animals coming here because there's territories and all these sort of things.
Absolutely.
But no doubt it'll be interesting to monitor
Yeah.
and have a look-see, because one must remember that Djuma will not be open from essentially between October and April every year, because that'll be the closed period.
Correct.
We'll be open for the 6 months. But one mustn't forget that we've got Wild Earth.
Correct, and that was the next thing that I was going to ask you, because I know there are so many people worried that Wild Earth will disappear. So am I right in saying that Wild Earth will stay on for the full duration of the year?
100%. Wild Earth, Djuma is the home of live safaris. Started in 1998 when Yuri and Pippa agreed to set up a relationship with Graham Wallington, the CEO of Wild Earth, and Rexon's worked for Wild Earth before as well. That will continue. They'll continue being very much part of the Djuma family, and they will be able to operate 12 months of the year.
Fantastic. Well, I know another question that certainly some people have asked me, some people that I've brought here before, what's going to happen to the staff members that would normally have led safaris and guided like Rexon has before, and like Aubrey and Fanotti, a lot of the people know and love. What will they be doing for those 6 months of the year that the lodges are closed?
Again, the where we're moving to in terms of this model, again, there is a very out-the-box thinking, which is very typical of Yuri and Pippa, who have a long history of 25 years of involvement in socio-economic development within the Sabi Sand, but very importantly outside the Sabi Sand in adjoining communities, Dixie, Utah, and further afield. A big factor for us to decide upon was, what are we going to do and what is the impact going to have on our family, on our brothers and sisters, the staff? Because it's not merely about cutting numbers of staff. So we've looked at a number of things. Number one is that we're not only going to have staff for 6 months of the year, we're going to have a permanent staff that we're going to employ for the full 12 months. Okay. So people will still be on site here. Yep. For example, Rexon, and I'll get on to Rexon because he forms part of another development. But Rexon's going to remain as the Safari's habitat manager for the entire year.
He's not disappearing for 6 months of the year when there are no guests here.
So those staff. You've then got another level of staff who will be utilized full-time during the 6 months, and for the shoulder periods will be in a pool of staff that we will draw in. Mm-hmm. At the same time, the staff that are permanently employed, and you talk about guides, we all know that guides are dependent on tips. Yep. And we thought about that, okay, for 6 months, Aubrey, who's been here 34 years, Rexon, who's been here a decade, they're not going to earn tips. Okay, we've proactively started to put out feelers with adjoining landowners, both commercial lodges as well as private owners, to say our guys can go and be with their own little businesses, can go and freelance, moonlight some people might call it, and they're welcome to go and do that, and we encourage them to do that.
And that's something that a lot of people may not know about Djuma, but this area in the northern Sabi Sands is a little bit different from the rest of the Sabi Sands, where there's a lot of private little camps and homes around the area where people usually come and they don't necessarily have a guide that know the area well. So they might be driving and get lost, or they just want to sit in the back and relax.
Or learn how to go into a sighting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so there's an opportunity, if I understood you correctly, when you and I spoke a week or two ago, that some of the guys in that, let's call it the off period, has an opportunity to,
supplement the income.
Correct. And learn some, some new business skills when 100%. We talk about, some of the other staff members as well, because it's not just about game drives. Yeah. There's so many different things that have to happen at lodges and at camps.
Correct. Look, there's always something. I mean, there's maintenance of camps. There's in the work in the field that Rexon does. There are a number of things, and there's exciting stuff coming. There are a couple of roads that, for example, that are have been positioned in slightly the wrong place on the seep line. Yes. So Rexon's got the idea, in these times we're going to correct those. They're not major, but moving it up the seep line, above the seep line. Little things like that. And we're going to do that out of...
Things that you probably wouldn't have had time for under normal circumstances, where you know how grueling it is as a guide, being up every single day from, before your guests until after they go to bed. So personally, I think it's incredibly exciting, and we know that it's going to be a dynamic change. It's not something, if you think outside the box, it's things that you can't predict what's going to happen in 8 months, 10 months, a year down the line. But like you said, knowing Yuri and Pippa, they've always been at the forefront of innovation and change, and that's why Safari Live is here. That's why we have a camera up at the dam, and so I think it's very exciting times, and I just think it's important that people know that it's not a decision that was taken lightly, but there's very much a plan, not only for Yuri and Pippa or for you, but for every single person that form parts of, and you said it, it's the Djuma family.
Sure.
It's not just, it's not just a group of people that work at a camp.
I think Villiers, and for me, and I've been in this game a long time, 36 years now, and being a friend of Yuri's and Pippa's for many decades, and also known people like my brother Rexon and that. One of the interesting things about Djuma is that Djuma is the only completely Shangaan managed camp. Now, a lot of people say, Michel, wena mchangana wena. That's why you say Shanga, not black. But it's true. Rexon and his 4 colleagues in the management team, Luzile, Penny, Opa and Jim, are the management team. I'm a mentor to them. And that's why this change has been, and we've discussed it at length with staff. It's tough, but one of the other highlights for me is that, given Djuma's background, is that we are looking also, identifying people within the organization to assist them in setting up their own businesses. We've got somebody who's looking to set up a workshop and servicing of vehicles for Djuma, who'll be the core client, but for a number of other lodges. We've got a housekeeping manager who is already, people are already asking, can we use her service? Can she come and do the manuals for us? Can she come and train our staff, etc.? So we're looking at that. And then, of course, Rexon, who will be retained within the Djuma permanent team, but we also have had long discussions with Rexon, and maybe he can talk a bit about it, is looking at setting up Rexon in his own habitat management consultancy business, which again will be based at Djuma, but will then go out and be able to, and I'll let Rex talk a little bit more about it.
Rex, so you are basically, the future is uncertain, but it's exciting. So are you in that headspace now where you don't know exactly what it's going to be, but, you know, let's call it the Sabi Sands is your oyster, or at least the northern Sabi Sands?
Yes. You know, as Mich says from the beginning, you and Pepper are the people, are very good to people, social development outside. I have a trust. I mean, what's going to happen for me, it will be a huge benefit to start my own business and learn from it.
Yeah.
It's more important in life.
It's empowerment.
Yes,
it's basically
empowerment.
Yeah.
Actually, what's going to happen, even into the most of people, to me, I see Michel and Yuri, what they've started. It is scary when you look at it from the distance. But for the people who always talk to them and what initiative it need to happen, I'm very glad to it. I'm very glad. Because this it will help me a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I will be mentored by Mich. I will be able to even provide service maybe from neighboring lodges around in the area, and that is my own benefit.
And you're taking those skills, not only physical skills, but whatever business skills you learn, and you're also taking that back to your family and to your community.
Yes.
And I think that
creates also
other
more
jobs.
opportunity for
Absolutely.
people outside.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which it's
what
very
we-
interesting.
yeah.
Well, so from I feel a bit like an insider, but let's say from an outsider's perspective, you know, when we heard the changes were happening, I was a little bit unsure, like what on earth is happening? But listening to you guys and hearing how positive you are and talking about trust and talking about family, it's in Afrikaans we say geruststellend. It's I think for
Comforting.
it's comforting. That's the word that I was looking for. And for all of you that have had all these questions, you know, I think it's obvious to say that Djuma's on an exciting new path. And even though we don't know exactly what it's going to look like a year down the line, you know, I'm 100% sure it's going to turn out well. And I can only hope that you guys will keep supporting them, because remember, for 6 months of the year, you can still book Galago, you can still book Vuyatela. And what I'll do, for those of you that don't know, I'll add the booking details in the description below, so you can go and check that out. If you ever have any questions, it's as simple as sending an email through, and the email address will obviously be there as well. So guys, I just really appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got guests, I know you've got guests, but thank you for coming out and chatting to me. And I just wish you all the best. I hope it's going to be a massive success. And who knows, maybe a year down the line, we'll sit here again and we'll be talking about, you know, all the exciting things that have happened.
Yeah, we look forward to giving you an update, because there's no doubt that watch the space.
Watch the space is the word.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Guys, thanks again for watching.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. If I can't answer them myself, I'll ask Mich or Rex to help me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.